From the story of a kind woman. That evening, as usual, I went out to take out the trash. The street was already enveloped in complete darkness, and there wasn't a soul around. The darkness seemed to wrap around the streets, making them silent and mysterious, and the only accompaniment to my footsteps was the quiet rustling of dry leaves underfoot. Suddenly, I heard a sound, as if somewhere nearby a meow had been heard. I stopped, became alert, and listened. The sounds of the night silence, so clear and loud, immediately caught my attention. I took out my phone and turned on the flashlight to illuminate the area near the trash containers. After walking around them a few times, I didn't find anything suspicious. I thought it was most likely stray cats, which were often seen in this area. However, as soon as I heard a soft but persistent meow again, it became obvious that the sound was coming from inside one of the trash bins. This strange and alluring sound seemed to draw me in. Slowly approaching the container, pondering which cat could have ended up in such an unpleasant situation, I directed the flashlight inside. And what I saw there literally took my breath away. At the bottom of the container, comfortably nestled among the trash, sat a stunning little cat. Her huge eyes, full of hope and trust, gazed directly at me. She was covered in long, slightly disheveled fur that resembled a fluffy cloud lost in the impenetrable darkness. Hearing my approach, the kitten let out a soft purr filled with tenderness and began to gently knead the cloth lying beneath her. At that moment, my heart was filled with touching tenderness. I realized that I simply couldn't leave her here alone. Whether she had been abandoned by someone heartless or had ended up here by accident remained a mystery. One thing was clear. She was here because of someone's negligence, like an unwanted item that was forgotten. Picking her up, I felt a slight tremor, and her warm and gentle gaze looked straight into my soul. It was as if she was saying, "Thank you for finding me." This moment will forever remain in my memory as a reminder of the fragility and vulnerability of those who depend on our care. Her gaze, full of love and gratitude, melted all doubts in my heart, and I realized that I could no longer let her return to this cold and cruel world. Bringing her into my home, I was truly shocked by what I saw under the lamplight. The cat's once beautiful and shiny coat had now turned into impossibly tangled clumps. Huge mats were literally falling apart, exposing her skin. This sight was my first such experience in all my many years of practice. Before me stood a creature that looked like one continuous tangled mass. I firmly decided that I must find a way to help her. Armed with numerous combs and grooming tools, I began my arduous task. However, despite all the efforts and hours spent, attempts to even slightly tidy her up ended in complete failure. Her fur was so tangled that it seemed all efforts were in vain. But Marta, as I named this gentle kitten, surprised me with her behavior. She did not resist at all. On the contrary, it was as if she was supporting me. Her quiet purring sounded like a song of gratitude for any attempt to help. When I untangled another mat, she delicately tilted her head and gently touched my hand with her muzzle. This cat was undoubtedly extraordinary. Her size amazed me. Although she was clearly an adult, her body was so tiny that she resembled a kitten no older than 6 months. Her miniature ears, flat face, and huge expressive eyes stood out. She looked like a strange mix of Persian and British breeds. The next day, full of determination, I took Marta to a professional groomer. Her haircut caused the master indescribable shock. A woman who had seen many complicated cases in her career admitted that she was seeing something like this for the first time. Her eyes filled with tears as she took up the scissors. The grooming process turned into a real operation requiring patience and skill. The groomer and I periodically exchanged glances, sharing a mixture of astonishment and affection. After the procedure, Marta began to resemble a little dinosaur. Neat tufts of fur remained on her back, and her tail and head retained their fluffy crowns. She looked like a miniature jungle king. Even during the grooming, the kitten did not stop purring, winning the hearts of everyone around. The groomer admired that such a tiny heroine managed to withstand all the manipulations with honor. Discovering that Marta's belly had rounded, which became noticeable after the short haircut, I immediately realized that urgent action was needed. Soon, we went for an ultrasound examination, eagerly awaiting the results. And there on the screen, as expected, appeared 3 tiny kittens. It turned out that the cat was already in the final stages of pregnancy and was about to become a mother. At that moment, I remembered how I first found Marta, how she, trembling with fear, tried to snuggle up to me, asking for protection. These memories awakened an incredible sense of tenderness in me. How brave she was. Despite the hardships she had endured, Marta courageously prepared to bring her kittens into the world. The thought of possible sterilization at such a late stage troubled me. It seemed too risky and could endanger our brave pet's life. Therefore, I decided to focus on her comfort and safety. We bought Marta a cute little dress that provided her with warmth and comfort, and then took her to a pet hotel. This place seemed perfect. A cozy corner, caring staff, and enough space to rest. I made a promise to myself that I would never leave her alone, especially at such an important moment. At the hotel, I encountered other cats whose fates were also full of trials. Each of them carried their unique story, filled with sadness, but hope lived in their eyes. This place seemed to unite all the deprived animals, turning them into something more. A kind of community for those who had endured much but had not lost faith in goodness. I began visiting the hotel with volunteers to not only help Marta, but also support other pets waiting for their chance to find a home. I wanted to give these animals more warmth and the hotel the opportunity to become a true haven for those in need of care. 3 days after my first visit to the hotel, an amazing event occurred. Marta unexpectedly gave birth. I happily watched her care for her tiny kittens with sincere care, striving to be an exemplary mother. Everything happened quietly, as if under a veil of secrecy, and her modest family of 3 fluffy creatures who were given spontaneous but cute names, Barsik, Laska, and Molnianosny, appeared before me only briefly, as if glimpsed, then hidden from view again. These tiny beings, who had just seen the world, became an inexhaustible source of joy and inspiration for me. Each day, I spent more time admiring how Marta gently fed, licked, and carefully pressed her little ones against herself, as if protecting them from the entire world. I tried to help her family, daily preparing food for them, bringing fresh milk so that her kittens were always fed and happy. Every time another kitten opened its amazingly clear and innocent eyes, I was overwhelmed with feelings I had never experienced before. It was like an avalanche of tenderness, love, and care that completely filled my life. For 3 weeks that I spent with Marta and her cheerful family, every day was full of magic and discoveries. Every visit to the hotel to see them felt like a celebration. The surrounding world seemed to slow down, and my soul was filled with a sense of boundless happiness. These little fluffy balls with their clumsy yet so touching steps and unexpectedly funny antics left traces of joy in my heart. I realized that life is not only a cycle of worries and duties, but also beautiful moments of happiness that need to be cherished. A special day arrived, which became an important milestone in the history of the little family. I organized a celebration called Open House Day. The goal was to give everyone the opportunity to meet these fluffy little ones and possibly become their future owners. I spent hours creating colorful advertisements, making posts on social networks, and attracting the attention of different people. Marta and her kittens began to resonate in the hearts of those who were ready to give them a home. Each new meeting with potential owners was not just an introduction, but a carefully thought-out process. I looked for those who could lovingly and responsibly care for the animals. Finally, with deep relief, I saw that my little wards had found their families. Laska went to live with a sweet girl named Katya. Barsik found a new owner in the form of a kind elderly man, and Molnianosny was taken in by a family where his future companion was already growing up. It was at that moment that I realized my mission was accomplished, and each of my fluffy friends was in reliable and caring hands. The last time I looked at Marta when she was being taken away, I couldn't hold back tears. But these tears were tears of genuine joy. It seemed to me that this little darling was incredibly lucky, much more than she could imagine. I was sure that in her new family, real happiness awaited her. I will remember Marta forever, for she was small, like a little star, a cat soul that I managed to save and give her a chance for a new, better life. Making such a decision was not only the right one for me, but perhaps one of the most important steps in my life. Now, a new task lay before me, to continue helping those in need. I began working on a new project dedicated to rescuing other animals, and each day I realized more that every creature has its own story. These stories require to be heard, understood, and supported. Thus began my new path, filled with hope and anticipation of what the next evening duty would bring me. Caring for those who found themselves in difficult situations became not just a task for me, but an important part of my existence. I was ready for the new challenges that fate threw my way. Life is amazing because it has its own little but significant magic. When you help by opening your heart to good deeds, the world becomes a little brighter.